great defense. They have great length, great athleticism. They have the great story, Dalton Connect, coming off and just being an offensive juggernaut right now for the team, much like UConn has in the one-year transfer portal. They've gotten some help. They've gotten some immediate help, and they've turned it into a situation where that has turned into a program piece that really, really mattered, where some of these other programs now are just desperately in that portal, reaching and grabbing. It seemed like these two teams were very selective and wound up selecting very, very well because it matters right now. Those two gentlemen are playing very, very well. Dalton Connect's playing at a very high level. Gonzaga, Mark Few, count it. St. Mary's got bumped the other night. Mark Few moves on. We'll talk about some of the conferences who've gotten roughed up, especially the Mountain West has got significantly roughed up in this tournament. But that's, it can happen. It can happen, and you're playing with the big crew. Then you're up against the big crew. NC State is the absolute. I'm going to call them the big fella Cinderella because they got the big fella inside who's been leading this team. And right now, if they're as close to Cinderella as you can get, I know they're NC State, but they came off the deck in the ACC, won 5 straight games. Now they're hot. They're winning, and I think they're probably 7 or 8 straight games. They're the hottest team in the country right now. And they're just doing really, really good stuff. And what it's showing, it's a little bit of old school basketball where they've taken their big man, put him inside, and made him the focal point. And they've collapsed that defense all around it, and now you have all of these open spots. It was evidenced by the end of the game where they put it into him, and he's left-handed, put a really good move on and realized that the defense had collapsed around him, found one of his teammates wide open in the corner, nailed a 3, and that was an absolute nail in the coffin of the game right there. It was just unbelievable good basketball. NC State's doing great, and Coach Cates is doing a good job. Illinois is in. Terrence Shannon, we've talked about him. He's moving up my draft board even more. I had him up there, but, man, this young man's playing very, very high-level basketball. He's a terrific, terrific college player that I think has an unbelievable chance to move on and be a good pro as well. So you got the Dukes. They beat James Madison today, and they beat them convincingly. That's a good sign for Duke fans. James Madison's a good basketball team. And Duke walked in from the very, very first tip of that game. I was just watching it before I came over. I think it's over. Just watching it before I came over, but it was in a position where Duke was well in command of that game and certainly wasn't going to lose it. And so if I was going into that game, I was a little concerned about them with James Madison because James Madison had beaten some really good teams during the year. And so the Duke Blue Devils advance, and boy, this is turning up to be, you have Duke and North Carolina in there. You got North Carolina State.
Yep, Duke finished 93-55.
90, yeah. That was smoke on the water, as we used to say, Deep Purple smoke on the water right there. That's John Shire saying, we're ready. We're in the Sweet 16 and we're ready. That's a message game. That's sending a message to the United States that says, okay, we're going. We're ready. All right. And you got Purdue. They manhandled Utah State today. I was very, very impressed with the intense focus that team had in today's game. And I mean everybody, including the manager, including the guys who were selling hot dogs on the concession stand. Everybody hit a 3 for them in that game today. It was just unbelievable, the display of shooting that they put on. And this is the thing that I've said about them all along. I see that they do have the eye of the tiger a little bit. I found that. And that's why I picked them to win it all. But what I have said all along, from an absolute basketball standpoint, from a technical standpoint, if they shoot the basketball like that, there's no way you're going to stop Zach Edey inside. You're never going to be able to collapse on him. You're never going to be able to swallow up around in the help there. And if he catches one-on-one coverage with them shooting the ball from the perimeter like they are right now, they look like UConn did last year to me right now. And I'm going to say that to everybody. I'm interested to see what happens with UConn and Northwestern. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Northwestern in this game. And the reason I say that is because they have some really good players. Boo Booey's an excellent player. But they were 2 times. They beat Purdue once, and they were in a dogfight with Purdue. And you remember that was the free throw gate where they had the huge differential in the amount of free throws that they took. But so 2 times with the number 1 team in the nation, this Northwestern team was right there. Chris Collins has a good team. Now, can they hang with UConn? We're going to find out in 45 minutes. I don't think so. So it's going to shape up. If UConn gets through tonight and Alabama gets through the Grand Canyon game, and there's a couple others to play tonight. Yale, my friends out at Yale.
I can't believe the Yaleys are still in it.
And let me tell you something right now, because I looked online and I saw this. Yale, if they win tonight, and
why don't we take a look at the East then?
And UConn wins, yeah, we'll go throw it up there. This is shaping up to be about a $5,000 ticket in Boston, if this was to happen. Now, San Diego State tonight is a very significant opponent for Yale. But Yale is playing that kind of Ivy League basketball right now, ultra intelligent, very, very skill-driven, and playing with a lot of intensity, a lot of team integrity. Coach Jones just doing an amazing job there. You can see why his team, kind of reflects, his personality, and it's really interesting to see. So Pete has been in here busting his butt probably since 7 a.m. this morning, toiling over this. And we thank his fiancée for letting him out tonight, because this is rare Sunday, and we love it. So UConn, is all the way batting it up right now. You think, they win tonight in advance, they're going to have a decent run here, because we were talking about this at the beginning of them having the most difficult bracket. Right now, they have the easiest run. Auburn being knocked off by Yale is huge.
Yeah.
Florida Atlantic going out to Northwestern is huge, and so they did get a little help here. And so right now, that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. It has that topsy-turvy effect. And right now, UConn is certainly on top in that bracket and holding the hammer. The game against Northwestern tonight is going to be a better game than I think people think it is. And then you have San Diego State and Yale tonight. That's the late game. San Diego State, Final Four last year. They're looking to go to the Sweet 16. This is really, really something that's a bit of an unknown story in college basketball about how good San Diego State has been over the years. But they're just doing really, really good stuff. And you see that matchup tonight. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a good game. I think that was reflected in the line. Okay, so we're rolling here. Duquesne in the first round. We called that game in our bracket. They were very, very successful. And then, came up against Illinois, and Illinois is Illinois, and they're playing very good basketball right now. I thought that their approach, I want to say it was Illinois' approach, because when you win a big game and you're ready to go to the Sweet 16, the whole Illinois basketball team was standing in the locker room waiting to throw water on their coaching staff. It's a ritual. It's a basketball ritual. Sometimes you get a whole bucket dumped on you. Sometimes you get, just a couple of water bottles, Sometimes somebody throws a bottle of champagne in there. One time it's a big championship. Obviously non-alcoholic, of course. But you're going to get wet. You're going to get wet. But in that moment, the Illinois coaching staff, after the big win, the team was in the locker room waiting. And they were ready with the water. They were all set to go. And the coaching staff walked in with water soakers. And came in, and it turned on, and it was unbelievable. And that's what March Madness is all about. That's one of the great stories here that we have. They just came over a great win, and the coach was ready. The assistant coaches came in. They had goggles, water soakers, everything, and the whole team just exploded. That's one of the great moments that you have as a coach, when you really, really bond up with your team there, and you're going to win, and you're doing good stuff, and everybody's coachable, and the coaches are listening to the players, and the players are listening to the coaches, and everybody wants to say the right things at the right time. It's just a beautiful vibration. But to come in, I just had to mention that with the water soakers. Like aside from the guy from Long Beach State getting fired and walking through that whole thing as a George Costanza candidate, I think this is the number two. I got to say, absolutely the number two. So we're going here again. Yep, and let me just slip in here, because this Iowa State team, that Washington State game was a great game, really, really good game. It tested Iowa State. Iowa State's good, but you're stepping in with the big boys right now. They got a matchup with Illinois that is going to be absolutely a really, really good game. All right, Pete, let's roll it.
Here's the West, and let's go up to the top half.
Here we go.
These games are in progress.
This is when Pete turns that up like that and goes in. That's called Sutter vision. That's so I can absolutely see it. All right. So this I didn't like Michigan State being in the tournament at all. I thought their matchup with Mississippi State, I had picked Mississippi State, but give Michigan State their due. Really, really good first-round game. And they got up against it against North Carolina. Started out that game on fire, but North Carolina's the real deal, folks. North Carolina is veteran. They stayed the course, and they really, really went into an offensive rhythm there that you see if they can establish that in games with RJ and Armando Baycoat. Boy, this team's pretty good. They're pretty good. And they've got a little bit of different factors in there. Withers came in, and it's Bill Withers, lean on me right now because the team really took to him, and he got some great, great plays and baskets in that game. That's going to be, if Alabama gets through Grand Canyon tonight, or even Grand Canyon goes through, that's going to be a really good matchup. North Carolina's good, but both of those teams are just the kind of matchup you might not want to see if you're North Carolina. That's all I'm going to say about that. Alabama's very athletic, very, very tough, and Grand Canyon's just pushing everybody around right now. Okay, Pete, let's roll it. Now we go down here. Clemson over New Mexico. That was a really good game. I was a little bit surprised, not that they won the game because I think Clemson's very good, but I picked New Mexico in that game. But I was a little surprised at the way they handled them. They came out right from the tip, and they let it go. And they played almost like Purdue did today, where you put that kind of game together in a championship-type situation. It's a real hats off to the coaches, because that's a great game at the right time when you needed it. And now they're going to get matched up against Baylor. That's an unbelievable. My Colgate Red Raiders went down, but Baylor just way too athletic for them, But
I don't know. That's a good game right now.
The
64-66. Baylor's Clemson's up by 2.
There's been so many good games.
With 36 seconds to go in the game.
Oh, and Baylor's on the line. Look at these free throws. I say to people, just missed it. I say to people all the time, everything right now is coming down to layups and free throws. Layups and free throws. And if you've been watching some of these games, he missed them both, but they got the ball back. Here's where you pull a 3 and just end the game.
Yeah.
Go inside.
We'll take a look at the finish of this game.
They blocked it.
I'm going to take the audio out.
P.J. Hall.
Yep.
Godfrey is fouled.
So timeout with 29 seconds
against
left.
Baylor and 2 free throws.
Unbelievable.
Here for Godfrey.
Clemson's up by 2.
And he knows this one's short. Look at him running off the free throw line. The other part about
came back with
two Spiros that they're from the free.
Clemson's good. Clemson's good.
Back to the bracket.
Them in the Sweet 16 would be nice. You see Arizona, Dayton, both Atlantic 10 teams held up very, very well. Duquesne winning over BYU, and Dayton over Nevada. I had Nevada in that game. I thought Nevada would prevail. That will go down as one of the greatest comebacks in NCAA history, if not the greatest comeback in NCAA history. Dayton was way, way down in that game. I had just kind of almost turned it off. And then I flipped back to it, and I was like, oh, here we go. And it was boom, 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 boom. And Holmes really, really stepped his game up there. I think that was maybe –
all right, want to take it for the finish here?
Yeah, let's see it.
2 free throws made on the Clemson side. They're up by 4.
Somebody down. He's going to fire.
Terrible shot there.
Misses from
terrible shot. If you're 4, you need a 2. Now you fouled again. Now you're cooked. Because that guy right there is Joe Girard, and I'd say he's probably in the 90 percentile for free throws. And they're up 4. So these are 2 gimmies right here. And if he's shooting 2, you're going to, there's no way he doesn't get one of them. The bottom line is right there. This is what I say to coaches all the time, especially young coaches. You're down by 4. You didn't need a 3 there. You needed a 2 because right at that time the clock will stop. And once the clock stops, you can push up your defense. You can call timeout. You can do anything you want. But the moment you hoist that 3 and miss, it's over.
That's where Clemson puts it away.
The 3 doesn't get you anywhere closer than the 2 does. You're still down. You still need the ball again. You still need the possession again. It blows my mind with coaches at the end of the game here, this management of the clock and how to handle it. Sometimes it just blows my mind because right there, all you needed was to, and the defense many, many times isn't going to even obstruct you. You take it hard to the basket. You get your 2. At that moment, the clock stops. And then you can press, try and force a quick turnover and get the ball back, which is optimal. You could also call timeout and try and set your defense. But at that time right now, I think chaos might be to your benefit. And so at that moment, you take that hard 2, go to the rim, and stop the clock. Because once you let that clock run out, it's no longer the score. It's the time you got to worry about. It's the time. So Arizona goes in, and I think you're going to see.
Clemson's going to hang on.
Clemson hangs on.
They're now up by, what? They're up by 7.
They're up 5-7. It's
They're
over.
up by 8 now.
Yeah, it's over. Baylor goes home. Clemson advances. The ACC looking pretty good there. That's a good game right there. This is the stuff you're going to look at. Clemson, Arizona is going to be a really, really good game. Baylor and Arizona would have been a good game too. But to think that you're in the Sweet 16 and Arizona is going to play in a game like that, that's what makes this national title so special.
Clemson Baylor's now a final.
You got to go through it. Clemson Baylor is now one for the books. All right, we got more bracket there, Pete?
Let's take a look at Midwest.
Okay.
And we'll go to the top part of the Midwest.
Here we go. Okay. This game today, okay, Grambling State, let's take it out. Utah State looked pretty good against TCU, I'll tell you that. But today, Purdue turned them into the junior varsity. Absolutely turned them JV. There was not an instance in this.
That's a whooping.
Oh, it was not an instance in this game. And that might be, because usually NCAA games aren't like that. That might be an NCAA record for most points scored by Purdue as well. But what I saw from them today, folks, was what I was hoping to see. And I know they're going to have a really, really tough matchup coming up with Gonzaga and Mark Few. But I really like this Purdue team because if they can click inside and outside like they did today, it's them and UConn, if anybody. Maybe Houston can get in there, but their offense right now is clicking. They got shooters all around the floor right now. And if that occurs, you got to cover Edey one-on-one, and I don't see how anybody that's left. Maybe Duke, could get in there and do some of that. But I don't know who has the big man that you're going to say can handle going inside and stopping Zach Edey. Maybe the big kid at NC State. Maybe the big man at NC State. But I don't know.
That's still a wild bracket.
Everything's looking so good right now, really, for the NCAA.
Purdue Gonzaga, that's going to be a great matchup.
That's maybe of the 16, that's going to be premier.
Yeah.
There's going to be 8 games. How do you get better than that? We talked about coaching matchups. But how do you get better than that? I'll tell you how you might get better than that. You put McDermott and Barnes together and go Creighton, Tennessee. And this Creighton team is really, really good basketball team. Fun to watch. Tennessee has so much talent, plays defense a lot like Houston does, very, very stringent defense. They play with a lot of enthusiasm on the defensive side of the basketball. Always worried about them a little bit, on the offensive side, but so far they've been good. But if they run into that same Creighton buzzsaw that we saw, nobody's going to beat Creighton in that region right there, I think, if they run into that same buzzsaw. They'll have to run up against a UConn, against a Purdue, or somebody that's going to be able to take them out. But right now,
Creighton's had 2 impressive performances.
Yeah, they've been pretty good.
Yeah.
They've been pretty good. And Tennessee as well. Tennessee took out a good Texas team, and that wasn't really much of a game. That wasn't much of a game. And that was interesting to see. It was interesting to see. Okay, Pete, what else we got left?
Let's take a look at the South. And we'll go up top.
Boy, oh boy, this has been some tournament. Okay, this, to me, right now, is a game that's going to be decided tonight. Absolute best game of the day right here. Houston and Texas A&M. You're going to see some unbelievable athletes. You're going to see some unbelievable defense, and you're going to see some unbelievable coaching. Buzz Williams is one of the most underrated coaches in the country. He gets his teams to play when he was at Virginia Tech, when he came over now to Texas A&M, quickly has them looking at maybe a Sweet 16, but they got to go through Houston. And Houston's defense is primo. Houston's defense is the best in the country. It depends a lot, again, like everybody else, but I think it depends more for Houston than any one of those other aforementioned teams. How are they going to shoot the ball? How are they going to make the offense happen? Because if you saw them in the championship game against Iowa State in the Big 12 final, you saw them put up 40-something points, a low 40-something points, and they had a very, very low number at halftime as well. So the question about them being, an offensive problematic team, in that vein, we've been right all along. They do have some issues there. Can their defense carry them? I think that's a game where they're going to have some issues. Texas A&M team's tough, and they're athletic. They're as athletic as Houston is, and that's not easy to do. So Duke beat James Madison today.
93-55.
And it was not a game. It was one of the – I said to my wife earlier in the day today, I said, yesterday was unbelievable. Watching – and again, the closure with the Creighton and Oregon double overtime game that was just an unbelievable heavyweight battle, back and forth, two Titans going at it. Only one could emerge, but today really didn't have a lot of that, because Sunday emerged and there was a lot of teams that got throttled, a lot of teams that got whacked. Utah State came in and Purdue handled them. James Madison came in with a really, really good victory, in their first-round game over Wisconsin, a good Wisconsin team, and Duke absolutely throttled them.
They smoked them, yeah.
Start to finish. There was never an instance where that was part of the game. In any of those games, there was never an instance where that team was ever in the game. And so kudos to those coaching staffs, to those teams. Get ready, because it's time. You want to play your best basketball right now. Okay, Cinderella with the big fella. We're calling it right now. NC State. Boy, oh boy, what a long, strange trip that's been. And the interesting part also is that some of this is tied into the head coach's contract. Contractually, they have him, okay, if you make it to the NCAA tournament and go all the way through and win the ACC, you get an extra year on your contract.
Wow.
So you get an extra year. Now he goes to the Sweet 16, and now he gets another year. And so somewhere along the line, he had a good agent who built into this thing, my success parameters are also going to equate to you instantly confirming more years on my contract. And a pretty good move by his agent. I don't know who his agent is, but that's not bad. Marquette, Colorado game today was a very, very good game. One of the better games in there. But Marquette is playing with Tyler Kolek as back. Sitting him out of the Big East tournament was very, very smart on their part. No sense risking it, trying to get him ready. He looks pretty good, movement-wise. He looks like he's back and ready. He's been outstanding in their first two games. He hit a turnaround in the lane today against Colorado just to finish them, absolutely finish them. And that bodes for a really, really good matchup because you got the big guy inside for NC State who's been playing really, really good. But also now you got Iguodala, who's going to be in there for Marquette, the young freshman who's an outstanding big man. That's a really good matchup coming. Really good matchup coming. Okay, Pete, let's roll it.
I think that's all we got. We've been
That's
through
all
everything.
we got.
We've been through everything.
Okay. So we'll keep you updated, folks, on the rest of the stuff. What we did want to do is just go through a little bit of what's happening a little bit with the carousel right now because there's been some updates there as well. On the carousel, Dusty May, and this was to the dismay of some of the other teams that he was talking to, but this is
now, I remember you saying you didn't think he was going to go anywhere.
If I was him, you'd have to really pull on my heartstrings to get me out of there because at Florida Atlantic, you live in Boca.
I know.
You're coaching basketball in Boca.
And he's going to what, Michigan?
He's going to Michigan.
Yeah.
By the lake to freeze. But with a lot more money and a lot more job security and probably a lot more NIL money, which is the game right now.
That's true.
You got to have that NIL bag. NIL bag at Vandy for the incoming coach right now is in estimates of $4 million.
Wow.
And so that's what's getting these coaches to jump up. It used to be money, the increase in money, but then a guy like Dusty May would sit there and say, well, I'm very well compensated here, and I love my quality of life. And they have an unbelievable home court advantage there that he's built up there. They used to have 10 people at their game. Now the place is completely sold out, and it's an unbelievable home court advantage for them. To now go to Michigan, compete in the Big Ten, It's a really big football school, so you're not just the only guy in the park. Where at Florida Atlantic, they were the big dog in the pond, But we'll see. We'll see. That's a carousel job because it now opens up Florida Atlantic. And you might possibly see some of the coaches in this area, who will be looking in that area. They've got possibly Coach Paquette at Mass Lowell has done very well. Coach Martin at UMass is an excellent coach and is a highly sought-after coach. So you might see some of that action as well.
Some of the lower D1 schools go up to FAU?
It's the way it works usually. Now, Chris Holtman, this is what we can talk about with FAU could be a problem, and we don't see that happening, but it does happen from time to time. If they do it internally, it's one thing, but then when they do it externally, but we call it an instant coffee retread, and that's Chris Holtman is the year's first instant coffee retread, meaning Ohio State fired him. He was out of the job for about 15 days, and now he becomes a head coach at DePaul. Now, you say to me, okay, what's wrong with that? And I say probably nothing in the whole subtext of it. This is the first, I think, really good hire that DePaul's had in their last 15 years, their last 20 years of picking basketball coaches since the Meyer family left. This is a good hire for them. I say that. What I also say about instant retread coffee, okay, when you have a young man who's at Ohio State, highest level, there's no higher level than that. You work with the most resources you could possibly work with in the entire country, and it doesn't go well for you there. I don't think you get to jump into the next $1 million job. That's what I say. Now, I don't say he can't work somewhere, but I think that some of those jobs should get recycled to young coaches who are trying to come up the ladder. Because when these guys are able to jump from side to side, from mediocrity to mediocrity, yeah, I honestly can say this is a good hire by DePaul. At the end of it, when we go through our grades, this will be an A or B hire, I would say, for DePaul. But I'm hoping that's not only in contrast to the terrible job that they've done in the past. So we'll see how it goes.
Score update coming. UConn is up by 21 with 2:54 left in the first.
It's
35 to 14.
It's the ladder. It's the ladder. Northwestern's getting smothered. They're getting handled. And that's okay. Brian Earl was the head coach at Cornell. He will now go and take the William & Mary job. So that's a good carousel job because now Cornell will be open. Duquesne is also open, and I want to call Keith DeBuscher-Dambrot because he is retiring this year after taking Duquesne to the NCAA tournament for the first time in over 40-plus years.
And getting a win.
And Dave DeBuscher was the former Knick who went out and retired right after the Knicks won the championship. So kudos to Coach Dambrot. Great timing. Way to get the team going and really, really fire up at the end of the year. Played great basketball, won the Atlantic 10 tournament, went into the NCAAs, knocked off a good BYU team.
Yeah.
That's a good BYU team.
That was a quality win for Duquesne.
That's a quality win.
Yeah.
And also, Pete, I know you got your little money counter over there. If you could just give me a little whack on that, because that's what it means for the Atlantic 10 as well. Win a game, you get a little bit of that register moving. You get that cash going. That's why everybody loves the NCAA tournament. Okay, that's it. SMU, I don't know, and I'm going to say this because this guy's a St. Bonaventure guy, and I love the guy. Rob Lanier let go at SMU after 2 years. I just don't get it. 20-13, 11-7 in the conference. After 2 years, they were moving to the ACC. I just don't see it. Okay, so now Dusty May was supposed to either go to Louisville or Vanderbilt. Somehow Michigan, Ward Manuel, got in the mix here and landed himself a big fish. Now, if you're the AD at Louisville and you're the AD at Vanderbilt, you're sitting there now going, okay, what do we do next? Now, you hopefully had a better B list, that was in comparison with May, and then there's, okay, who else is on there? But it's difficult to do that because May just got done playing. Byington, a person that everybody's going to want to talk to, just got done playing today. And so there's going to be some of that, and then the dominoes kind of fall from there. But right now, Louisville has to scramble, and they're wide open still. That job is wide open. Oklahoma State is another job that's a big job, and that's wide open right now. So these will create some further dominoes moving forward. Vanderbilt hasn't filled. That's a big job, $4 million NIL money ready to go. And SMU climbing into the ACC next year, that's going to be a big deal. Okay, we wanted to give a quick update on what we went through with a little bit of research, and we wanted to give a quick update on what we're calling today the cannoli count. All right, because in this, we've been harping on this a little bit, but we want to just get into it a little bit as well, because there's two things, the 1-2 punch that we're talking about here. But on the cannoli count, just very quickly, without naming any names, we're talking about like 7 to 9 cannolis for some of these bigger teams. And now we're going to buffer that same argument and buttress that same argument with a situation where the mid-majors have been forced now to pump all the money they can institutionally into buy games because they don't have NIL money built up yet. So their advantage is to go try and hold their coach's record up by buying buy games. They got into the league, and they all carnivored themselves, so it didn't work all the way through the year, but at least they got that buffer of 10 games. This has been going on in basketball for years. Look at some of the great coaches. Go back and see, okay, they had 1,000 wins. It was an unbelievable career. Go back and count the amount of cannolis devoured, and you'll see over a 30-year career, it might have been somewhere in the 300 range, might have been in the 280 range of wins, guaranteed wins that you bought. Okay, and here's what we're talking about, a buttress with that, because now you got all of these buy games, but also you have a home-away differential that I think is really important as well. Because when you say home-away differential, that means when you're playing 8 more home games than you are away games, that matters. That's wear and tear on your team. That's less flights, less hotel rooms. That's less practices in different gyms all over the country. That's less wear and tear on your team, 100%. So if you can cut that down and now you've got this crazy imbalance, that's what I think the selection committee needs to really pay a little bit more attention to, because some of these other teams that they don't even look at come up on the negative side of this home-away balance, while some of these other teams who've devoured 7 to 9 cannolis, now they come up, and here we'll give it to you right now. The biggest offender we could find were the East Carolina, I believe their name are the Pirates, and I see why. 20 and 10. 20 home games, and they were 10 away. That's a 10-plus differential in the amount of games that you had. Unbelievable. I found Tulsa with 18 and 11. VCU out of the Atlantic 10, 19 home games, 10 away. Duke, the Blue Devils, they like hanging around down in Durham, 18 and 11. That's not that bad considering some of the others. Houston, the Cougars, 17 and 10. Iowa State, 18 and 10. Iowa State was 18 and 0 at home this year. Texas, 18 and 10. West Virginia, 18 and 9. Cincinnati, 21 and 11.
Crazy.
21 and 11. That's 30 games, folks. That's 30 plus games. That's 2/3 of your schedule, and you're sitting at home. Unbelievable. BYU 18 and 10.
How does the NCAA allow that?
Seton Hall 18 and 11.
Seriously, how does the NCAA allow that many home
Georgetown
games?
19 and 12. I have no idea. And not only that, they're bye games. How do they allow that? And then at the same time, tell me, this is what I've been saying, weapons of math destruction, that somehow you have a power strength of schedule over other teams when you've been allowed to do this. Iowa State, 19 home games? Come on, you're supposed to be one of the best teams in the country. All right, we do this with the NBA, so we're going to do it today. Who's hot, who's not? Right now, if you're hot, that means you're still playing, most likely. Connecticut ended with they have an 8-game win streak.
They're
right
still
now.
up by 20.
Currently, they're up, so let's make that a 9-game win streak.
22 with 1.1 seconds left, and they're still at the free throw line.
In the half.
Yeah,
in the half.
Yep.
Their whole thing is take them out by halftime. Take them out by halftime, and they've done a great job with that. I didn't pick them to go all the way, but I'm a little nervous about that right now.
I did. had to keep them in.
Pete on the repeat. Pete looking for the repeat. Okay, so Iowa State wins 5. Illinois has won 6. James Madison, up until today, had won 14 games in a row. Now, who wasn't hot? And this is kind of, it was a little surprising to me. Miami had lost 10 straight games at the end of the year. Davidson had lost 6. Louisville had lost 8. And if you're noticing here, and we'll go with a little asterisk, Louisville, asterisk, Oklahoma State, L6, asterisk, West Virginia, L6, asterisk, DePaul lost 20 straight games in a row, asterisk. What's the asterisk? Means they've all lost their job. It means sustained losing in the NCAA will get you fired. West Virginia lost 6. DePaul lost 20. Michigan had lost 9 in a row. That was one of the things that led to Juwan Howard's dismissal. Cal Poly, L20, lost 20 games in a row. NCAA had 10. IUPUI, again, another coaching change, 12. Rio Grande, L14. Missouri, I'm surprised they haven't made a coaching change here. I know the guy just got out there a little while ago, but they lost 19 games in a row. And you might still see something happen there because that's a lot. Pacific, 17, and VMI, 13 in a row. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we just went through a little bit of that, and we're going to give you what, a little bit more of what we're talking about here, and then we'll give you a little bit more of analysis on the bracket. Although we're flying along here,
I know, we're cruising today.
Sunday night, the time seems to go even quicker than Thursday afternoon. But we have a Calipari controversy, and we were hoping before we got on today that we might have some definitive news to offer you. But the Calipari controversy goes like this: they got bounced. They got bounced by Oakland. They got bounced
unceremoniously.
They got bounced by a D2 player who hit 10 threes in their mush. Okay? Defense was terrible. Defense was absolutely terrible. Okay? And so now they had lost to St. Peter's 2 years ago. Now, all of these sportscasters, including Jay Wright, who I have great respect for, and I think he's doing a great job as a sportscaster, they all jump on their sword for Calipari going, oh, his team is so young, and all the other teams are so old. And exactly. And it was bad, man. It was bad. And I just wanted to let people know that, Coach Calipari is the one responsible for the construction of his roster. They're the ones who decided to be a one-and-done factory. And so you're turning over your roster every single year by design. And so you created
That's
that.
also why he doesn't play.
That's not like your guys jumping in the portal.
That's why they don't play defense, because he's getting ready for the NBA.
Right, and they don't have to. And
Right?
they don't have to, right?
Right, exactly.
It's not a requirement. It's not a requirement up there. But anyway, I just wanted to go that. But I want to just share this quick story with you. John Calipari, after being, he was in the college ranks for a while, wound up one of the coaches that wound up going up to the pro ranks. A lot of people don't even remember this about Coach Calipari. He went up and coached the Nets, and the Nets gave him a 5-year contract at about $5 million a year to coach the team. About a year and a half into it, they call him in and they said, John, it's just not working out. We thought this was going to be good, but we're going to have to let you go. Calipari's response to them was, will that be check or cash?
It's true.
And the $17 million they owed him
It's true.
was paid out in full, and he had a college job at Memphis about 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, Kentucky says, we need a new coach. All the people they are absolutely grumbling out there. This is Kentucky, bluegrass territory. Basketball is religion there. They don't have much football out there. Basketball is absolute religion. Adolph Rupp going all the way back. I mean, this is it, okay? And now they got bounced out 2 of the last 3 years to some really, really not SEC-level teams, not Kentucky-level teams based upon the amount of resource that Kentucky has in their program. So obviously the heat is on Calipari's collar big time. He's got all of his newscaster cronies diving on swords for him all over the place.
Hey, Coach, here's the 80. 80 to Calipari. We think you should go. Here's Calipari's response.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Well, that is. Let me explain something to you, Pete. There's kaboom coming if they do let him go.
Correct.
Because It's going to be, I assume, the same line that he offered to the Nets. That's why I told that story. And he's going to say, is that going to be check or cash? And this time, to Cal's credit, instead of it being $17 million, it's going to be $33 million.
Yeah.
It's almost double. Every year they hold on to him, it goes down. But right now, they've given Coach Calipari a lifetime contract. And any time that they want to have him step away from that contract, they better get ready to pay. And this is what people don't realize also. They go, oh, $33 million. You know, that's a lot. If you talk to football coaches and the ADs that do those football things, that's not a lot, where they have guys going out at $70 million and all this other stuff. Personally, I think that's kind of a lot of money. Personally, I think you messed up. But, hey, you know, but if you were to go get rid of Coach Calipari at this moment as well, you have to understand that there has to be similar compensation for the new coach that comes in. Everybody's talking about Jay Wright, Billy Donovan, all of these great names that are going to come in and take Coach Calipari's place. Well, they're not going to do it for free.
Correct.
So you're looking at $33 million on this side and $33 million on this side. Do you really think $66 million to get rid of Coach Calipari? Really? Based on 2 losses? I think you're nuts. I think you're crazy. The G League Ignite is to be canceled, thankfully. The NIL killed it. The NIL
So
killed
the G League is going to be gone now?
Video killed the radio star. NIL killed the G League. The G League is going to be gone now. The NBA is no longer going to be involved in this. All right, we got a feel-good story for you, Pete. The Yale basketball team doing a great job. Had a great victory. Unfortunately, their band had been in a previous commitment. And so
I saw this story.
They didn't have a band. And all of a sudden, people from the University of Idaho, their band director, they call up and they volunteer to go in and be the band for Yale. They were met when they got off their bus coming down from, I think it's, you know, wherever they came from. When they come down, they get off their bus, they're met with all of these Yale people who distribute them all sorts of Yale gear. So the Idaho band is sitting in the stands in Yale gear.
That's
playing the Yale fight song that they had learned 24 hours before.
I saw the story and I was like, that's just cool.
So Yale are the Bulldogs, okay? And so they called, and Idaho are the Vandals. So they called themselves the Van Dogs. And they went in and they played the Yale fight song for Yale. And I think that might be one of the coolest stories in the absolute whole story of the tournament. But here's what I want to say, all right? Hey, Yale, you got all these deep pockets out there. You got all these millionaires and billionaires on your rotator list, on your roster.
Yep.
Call up some of those guys. Let's get the Van Dogs hooked up.
Yep.
Let's take care of the Van Dogs for that great act of unselfishness that they did on your behalf. Let's get them hooked up.
How about pure sportsmanship?
I love it. I love it. That's a great story.
We're looking at Alabama Grand Canyon.
That's a great story. Alabama Grand Canyon, Bama up a little bit, but this Grand Canyon team is absolute junkyard dog. They will hang tough. They are tough. That's quite the story out there. That's quite the story, that university. Moving through March Madness, we just wanted to give you a couple of stories that we thought in this tournament, these are our standout stories. Kentucky's lost to Oakland, buoyed with their loss to St. Peter's 2 years earlier. That obviously got everybody's tail wagging about Calipari, got everything going. That spent about a 24-hour news cycle. They haven't had much of a news cycle out of that right now. They were supposed to meet today. Maybe we'll find something out. I think, you know, you'll see Coach Calipari maybe make a couple of staff adjustments, but, you know, Cal's Kentucky. I think he's going to be there. Personally, that's what I would guess. Number 2, I wanted to mention again the Oregon-Creighton game, absolute best game of the tournament last night, double overtime, unbelievable coaching, back and forth, unbelievable gamesmanship by the players out on the floor. I just thought that was a great, great basketball game. Yale, the Eli's taking out Auburn. That is the greatest victory in the history of Yale. I'm just going on a basketball level. That is the greatest victory in the history of Yale. Athletic director Vicky Chun is responsible and one of the reasons for that. Coach Jones and his unbelievable approach with those young men, that's the reason for that. And that's a great story going down not too far from here, but everybody should be pulling for Yale because, as I said, if that game goes and UConn looks like they're going to punch out Northwestern, if somehow Yale gets by tonight, that ticket in Boston is going to be $5,000 minimum to get into that building.
Yep.
All right. So you've got Duquesne over BYU. Another really, really cool piece of this whole thing right now. The mosaic, as they say. Another nice little piece of it, you know. James Madison over Wisconsin. Boy, that doesn't help Wisconsin. You know, I know there's a lot of heat on them down there and their coaching staff. That doesn't help. And these coaches, you know, they work their tail off, and you get into the NCAA tournament. Sometimes it's a mismatch. Sometimes it's just a difficult matchup for you. But James Madison was no pushover this year for sure. NC State, the big Cinderella, DJ Burns. He's my guy right now. I love this guy. I want to tell you what he said. He said, "Glory be to God. Through him, it is possible to overcome obstacles." Unbelievable quotation by that young man out at NC State. I know a lot of people aren't into listening about that today, but I'm with you, DJ. I'm with you, big guy, and I love that lefty meat hook you got going. Nobody stopped it yet. Don't give it up. All right, the Grand Canyon over St. Mary's story, another good one, too. I had St. Mary's moving further up the line, and absolutely, they got punched out by Grand Canyon, and Alabama's having a tough time with them right now. As of right, when I took this off, I don't want to hear anything from anybody about this because I did this when I did this, and it might have changed because everything is fluid right now, and I didn't have the chance to change it going back and forth. But as of right now, that I took this down, the ACC was 6-0 in this tournament. The Big East was 4-0 in this tournament. The Pac-12 was 5-2, started off 5-0, then went to 5-2. The WCC is 2-1, buoyed by the good performance by the Gonzaga team. Big Ten is 5-3, okay for them if you're on the plus side. Big 12, some of these major conferences did not fare great, Pete.
Yeah.
6-5 for the Big 12. They went boom, boom, boom. They went out quick, a couple of those teams. The Atlantic 10, 2-2 right now, but those are two really good wins because that means more money. Every time you move forward in this tournament, advance through a round, that means more money for your school. That means more money for all of the schools in your conference. And that's great because we just got some of those teams and we just got them paid. All right? Missouri, the Mountain West, out there, Mountain West had a big entry bucket in there, but they're tough time 2-3 right now. SEC 4-5. Very surprised by that.
Yeah.
Very, very surprised by that.
Couple announced teams when I was bouncing around, they were
Yeah.
all talking about how rough time the SEC's been having in this tournament.
I think that's one of the stories, Pete.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the stories. Low majors, what they refer to as low majors, are 4-17. I would assume that they count Duquesne and Dayton as two of the four of that 4-17. All in all, not great for the low majors, but that's to be expected. The America Conference went 0-2, and that was a little bit of tough sledding for them right now. All right, we got a couple of minutes left, folks. We're going to give you a little bit of what we have right now as far as, can we go back to the bracket, Pete?
Which one do you want to go to?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But let's just show folks what we have as far as matchups right now.
All right, we're in the East.
If you say that, blow that up for me just a tiny little bit. You say that UConn's going to go through, right? And then you have to go San Diego State, Yale tonight. So there's no way of knowing. Later game. We'll check it out certainly later. But UConn up against either San Diego State or Yale, you think UConn's going to be able to slide through there and get to the 8. Now you got Illinois, Iowa State. Oh, my goodness. This is an unbelievable matchup. Unbelievable matchup. Both of those teams are capable of being Final Four teams right now.
Upper West.
Big win for North Carolina over Michigan State. Big, big win. I'm really interested to see what happens with this Alabama Grand Canyon game. I don't know what's going on there right now, but It was pretty close in the second half. Grand Canyon was hanging around. Alabama, North Carolina be a great matchup. I think that nobody wants to see Grand Canyon anymore in this thing. Nobody, because they're a junkyard dog team, and right now they're playing really, really tough. All right, Pete, let's roll it again. Great matchups all over the place here. We got great matchups all over the place. Okay, Clemson and Baylor. That's going on, and we know that Clemson won that game.
So it's Clemson,
So you
Arizona.
go to Clemson, Arizona. My goodness, what a game. What a game. I think Arizona will be slightly favored there, but Clemson is playing very, very March-type basketball right now. They're very good shooters. If Girard gets hot, the rest of those guys can maintain and get hot from the outside, that team's going to be really, really tough.
Midwest.
Purdue Gonzaga, I'm going to call this maybe the best game of the Sweet 16. You're going to have some other good ones.
Yeah.
And you got a game going on later tonight. That's Houston and Texas A&M. That's a really, really good game. But that Purdue-Gonzaga game, and then you slip right down here, Creighton, Tennessee. I just see this Sweet 16 really shaping up to be something special. Fans are going to love this. The fans are absolutely going to love this.
That was the Houston game.
And I don't think you got too much bracket, napalm right here.
Yeah, so Duke's in.
Duke's
and then
in.
Houston, Texas
And
A&M.
Houston, Texas A&M have to play later in the night, like Yale has to play later as well. So Duke getting in with George Mason, over James Madison, that sets up a really, really nice bracket up there. Now, NC State surprise team going up against Marquette, the Big East against the ACC, a great matchup. Marquette's big guy is going to have his hands full with DJ Burns because he's given everybody the business so far, and that goes all the way back into the ACC tournament as well. He's been on a roll, and he's tough because he's about 6'8" tall, but he's about 6'8" wide also. And when he goes over the left shoulder, you're 3 feet from where he used to be. It's like covering Zach Edey a little bit. When you cover Zach Edey one-on-one in the post and you catch him, he's 7'4" on the straight up.
Yeah.
But he's also, a good 36, 40 inches on the other side. And once he turns on you, it's over. Same thing with the big guy going to his left hand meat hook. He's been really, really something else in this tournament. All right, we got anything else up there that we want to look at? We're going to have just some great, great basketball.
UConn's about to come back from the
see.
half.
UConn's coming
the
back
other
from the
game's on
half.
break,
Is there
so.
any way to throw up that Alabama game against Grand Canyon?
They're in a break.
They're in a break. Okay, very good. I would say that's a very, very close game right now.
Yeah.
Very close game. But we've had an unbelievable tournament. I want to thank Pete for coming in on Sunday tonight and his fiancée for allowing that and letting us have this because there was just so much going on. It actually made the Thursday shows that much easier because if we had tried to condense all of this down and it waited all of this time, it's not as fresh. It's not as hot. And so coming in tonight, right after this whole thing just about is set and the table's ready to go, we could give you some really good insight as to what we think is going to happen here. We have a Final Four setup here that is absolutely spectacular. A Final Four setup here that's going to be really, really, really good. And I'm excited about it. I'm going to say this one more time also, though, because I have felt this just the last couple of days. You have NIT games going on. You have NCAA games going on. There's too many games in one day, especially on the NCAA side. You have to figure that out and break that up a little bit because I might be the biggest basketball fan in the country. And if I'm not the biggest basketball fan in the country, well, I'm certainly tied with everybody else who the biggest fan is. I've been watching nothing but basketball, but my eyes are going blind. My blood is running cold because of the amount of overload that's going on right now. And there's a better way to stretch this thing out. So we're instead of being on Thursday and Friday, and having 16 games on, in a day, in both days, and then skipping into another round of it on Friday and Saturday, you're just really, really
Yeah, it's Thursday,
overloading
Friday,
people.
then they're playing on.
Yeah, and it's just how much
They're playing on Easter Sunday.
and the human brain can't pull all that in. So I would say, especially you got NIT thrown in there as well. Why didn't you just completely obscure the NIT and say it doesn't matter? Because that's exactly what's going on
We
right
may have
now.
to come back
I
next Sunday
dare
night.
anybody to tell me what's going on in the NIT right now. Who's winning? Who's doing well? I can tell you one team I saw the other day, because the game was on at like 11 o'clock in the morning, was Seton Hall. And kudos to them for going into the NIT, because now they're advancing. They've won 2 games, and they've had good crowds in their home court arena there, and they've been nice little games with great school spirit and had a really good time with it. So congratulations. They're talking about Coach Holloway also at Louisville, and that might throw things up at Seton Hall as well. So, Pete, do we have any time left?
Got about a minute or so.
Did you say something to me just a second ago?
They have to come back next Sunday and do it all over again.
Do we have to come back next Sunday?
They'll be set up the Final Four.
You're going to let me know. You're going to let me know.
I would
because
say it's a safe bet if we come back
we'll
and do it all
in,
again.
Pull it in on Thursday, and then we go. We'll see. We'll see. I did resubmit my submission for a media credential for Boston. So what happened was I got shot down for New York, and the one at Boston said you can't. It was open, and then it was closed, and then they were going to reopen it. And so last night I was up till midnight.
Oh, jeez.
And so technically, because I was watching the games, they were still on.
Sure.
So technically, I went back in when it turned 12:01 Sunday. I went back in. So maybe our timeliness might help us here a little bit, because I've got to be the first one to go back in and try and open that thing back up. I felt like I was trying to get Springsteen tickets all over again. But on that side of the coin, folks, we're under a month, and we've got April 12th, 15th, Springsteen rolling into town, Mohegan Sun, Albany. I might go to Syracuse. Who knows? We'll be all over it. And in the zone, we'll let you know what's happening as well when the boss takes the stage. Have a great week, folks. We'll see you Thursday. We'll miss you, but we'll catch you a little bit short this week. Take care.